Have you ever wondered why your body reacts before your mind can actually even catch up? Or what your nervous system really is and how it operates? That's what we're distilling and reformulating today at the Apothecary Table. Welcome to the Apothecary Table, a production of the Holistic Apothic. I'm Dr. Katie Simons, clinical pharmacist turned mental health coach, hypnotherapist, and medicine woman. Here, we compound something new, a conversation where science, psychology, somatics, and soul all meet, blended together for how healing actually happens. With the caveat that this is not formal medical advice or a substitute for medical or mental health care, let's pull up a chair and dive in. So our mammalian nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, is the nervous system that keeps our heart rate going and our blood pressure, regulates our temperature. It's called autonomic because it's automatic. It happens without you having to think about it. And that's a really good thing because it keeps us alive. There are two branches of the autonomic nervous system within the body, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system is the part of your autonomic nervous system that regulates activity, the ability to take action, to move, to become aroused. If we are triggered outside our window of tolerance, which we'll talk about in just a second, then it becomes our fight or flight system. That's what gives us the adrenaline rush to be able to get ourselves out of a dangerous situation. The parasympathetic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that is responsible for rest and digest. It also, if outside our window of tolerance, can be responsible for freeze and fawn. So that will take us into our slides and we'll take a look at our window of tolerance real quick. So when you look at this graph, you can see that within what has been deemed the window of tolerance for the autonomic nervous system, our sympathetic and parasympathetic regulation is in constant movement, back and forth, back and forth. Literally with each breath, we see a little bit more sympathetic activation and then a little bit more parasympathetic activation with each inhale and with each exhale. That's how much these two systems dance together. And so with every arousal or activation, we see a little bit more sympathetic tone. And with the subtle and calm, we see a little bit more parasympathetic tone. So it's not like one's on and then one's off. They truly work in balance and in coordination, largely through the vagus nerve, which is the biggest parasympathetic nerve that we have running throughout our entire body. The window of tolerance is the explanation for where our body feels safe. So our body is constantly taking in information, like 11 million bits of information per second. That's a lot of information. Our conscious mind is only aware of 40 to 60 bits of information a second. So our bodies, our nervous system is taking in so much more sensation than we are consciously aware of all the time. And it does that as a survival mechanism. It allows our body to be scanning our environment for the perception of safety. Are we safe here? Are we moving through our life in a way that our body feels like we're going to survive this moment to the next moment? That's inside the window of tolerance, is what we call the nociception of safety, the felt sense of safety for the body. When the body picks up information that it perceives as dangerous, threatening, challenging, then it's going to activate our nervous system to keep us alive. And sometimes that activation becomes big enough that we get kicked outside our window of tolerance. And when we're outside our window of tolerance, we can either respond in hyperarousal, that sympathetic activation of fight or flight, or hypoarousal, that parasympathetic collapse of freeze or fawn. And so it's kind of just how our bodies are moving through life. And when we're inside our window of tolerance, we experience regulation. when we're outside our window of tolerance, we either experience hyperarousal or hypoarousal or some mix back and forth of both. So what does that look like in our lived experience? So regulation is your first column on this slide. And that's the experience of being, as I said, inside your window of tolerance within the nociception of safety. And in this place, we can think clearly. We're able to make eye contact. We have access to conscious choice. We feel poised and grounded in our bodies. We're able to communicate, and we have a sense of internal awareness. This is what we all consider normal, right? This is how we all want to feel all the time. Unfortunately, for that expectation, it's not really how our systems are wired to work. Our systems are wired to work in a way that evolutionarily has kept us alive. And so when we get kicked outside that window of tolerance, our sympathetic activation, the experience of that, can look like fight or flight, increased heart rate, hypervigilance, feeling hyper alert, pounding in the head, having anxiety, feeling defensive, being agitated or irritable, being overwhelmed, aggressive, angry, or feeling rage. This can also feel a little manic here. So these are the experiences of being in sympathetic activation. This is a signal, an intelligent signal from our body that something is feeling challenging or threatening. Now, we'll talk a little bit about where that signal is actually coming from within the subconscious mind, but this is an intelligent signal. If our bodies don't feel like they're getting the response that they want from us, because this is an activation, right? Our bodies are saying you need to do something here in order to get yourself out of danger. And if we don't respond to that need, if we don't complete that need somatically, then oftentimes what our body then will do is go into parasympathetic collapse. And what that experience looks and feels like is freeze or fawn collapse, helplessness, numbness, feeling depressed, fatigued, having lethargy and a lack of motivation, feeling apathetic, isolation, and an inability to feel emotions and dissociation. This is our body's freeze. It's our last attempt for our body to keep us safe. Now, if we find ourselves in parasympathetic collapse, in order to move back to regulation, our systems have to go back through sympathetic activation, which can look messy and it can feel messy. But this is how our systems are wired to work, and they are wired to work this way automatically because this is the autonomic nervous system that we're talking about. Having conscious control over this, we have a couple access points around our window of tolerance that we can work with and we can heal around. But when it comes to how our body responds to perceived threats and danger, we don't have control over that. This is an automatic response. So when we talk about the perception of threat or challenge, I say perception because it's really our body picking up on information that we're not consciously aware of. It's perceived as a threat or a challenge. And so it's easy to conceptualize this in 4 different sections of the 4 major perceived threats and challenges to our nervous system. And the first one is usually the one that we all think of when we think of safety, and that's physical safety. It's fairly obvious. But what's less obvious about physical safety is that our body can perceive threat or challenge from emotional threats, hostile work environments, irritable clothing, constant alarms or loud noises in your environment. So physical safety is not just simply I'm being chased by a tiger. It is all the other physical sensations that go into feeling safe. Another huge perceived threat or challenge to the human nervous system is the unknown. We are all really familiar with how the unknown feels, but we're not always aware how innately challenging it is to our nervous system. The other thing that goes into the unknown can be change. So big changes bring often the unknown with them, and our bodies are wired to resist this. They will choose comfort and familiarity over the unknown and change all the time, even if what we know is not what we desire. The third area of major perceived threat or challenge to our nervous system is incongruence in the environment. And incongruence is the sensation of, say, walking into a room where people have just been talking about you and everyone goes silent. There's like an incongruence there. Or when you walk up to someone and you can sense that something's not right, that something's wrong, or they're feeling off, and you ask, is everything okay? And they say, I'm fine. I'm fine. There's an incongruence there, a mismatch, right? The response you're getting in language is different from the response you're getting in tone and in body language. They're incongruent. That's going to set off alarm bells in our body that says something's not right here. And it's going to perceive that as lack of safety, a threat or a challenge. We can also create incongruence in our internal environment by us doing that to ourselves, saying, everything's fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Meanwhile, there's something actually up that needs your attention. And so that internal incongruence can also cause nervous system activation. And then the last one is shoulds and unmet expectations. And this is a huge one, especially culturally within the modern day society, of how we should look, how our life should look, how we should show up, how we should feel. All of these creates this internal environment of unmet expectation. And what this does is it causes our nervous system to be activated. It causes us some level of anxiety. It can also be like to-do lists, avoiding what you want to be doing in order to be doing what you don't want to be doing because you think you should. All of these things will activate our nervous systems. And when our nervous systems get activated, that sympathetic response, it's driven by a stress response within the body. It's driven by cortisol. So as all of these perceived threats and challenges are picked up within the environment by our body's response is going to be to create and dump cortisol into our system. And when that is happening chronically all the time, it's going to lead to symptoms that affect our mood. I hope this overview of your autonomic nervous system has been helpful in understanding a little bit more about how your miraculous and magnificent body works. I also hope it gives you a little bit more context to why we feel the things that we feel in our body, and that these are intelligent signals that are meant to help us survive. If you are still curious, I hope you explore a little bit more of my content, and if you have direct questions, please feel free to reach out or comment.